Our Lake of the Ozarks fishing reports are brought to you by Jack's Guide Service. Online at fishinglake.of-the-ozarks.com. Now here's Jack Uxa with this week's look at Lake of the Ozarks.
Alright guys, what's up? This is Jack Uxa with Lake of the Ozarks Fishing Report. I'm still on the water right now. I just got done with my second trip today. It's a hot day, but luckily we had some cloud cover this evening and there was a little bit of rain around, which we haven't seen a lot of rain. It was nice to see a little bit of rain. We didn't really get wet, just kind of sprinkled on us, and it really made the boat traffic, there wasn't much boat traffic at all. Bite's changing. We're definitely getting more towards that late summer and really more of an early fall bite. That means shallow water docks, bait fish, and moving back towards the back end of the coast for the bass. Now, depending on what kind of customers I've got, there's still some main lake fish to be caught, and they're easier, and they're in some ways they're a little bit more fun because they're a little bit more aggressive, we'll call them. But that shallow water deal is working right now, and that's kind of what's got me excited. I mean, it's coming on strong. We did it yesterday. Right now I'm here towards PB2, kind of more of a mid-lake area. We went up the lake a little bit towards the Lynn Creek and Nyang was and stuff like that yesterday, and it's going on over there. Pitching is a big thing. If you're not able to pitch, this is the time to get that down. You've got to be able to pitch in the fall of the year here, and in the spring. It's important all year, but particularly in the fall. The fall is the most important time to be able to pitch, and being accurate with your cast, being able to get your baits. Not necessarily, you don't always have to get them underneath the dock, but you got to get them around the dock, on the edges, the sides, back behind the cables and the walkways. That deal is already going on. We had a 4-pounder yesterday, some 3s, and just some keepers in general. And that's it's this August and September bite, and a lot of times by October it's kind of beaten up and they're starting to move out deep again. So that deal is starting on now. It's a great time of year to come down. We're seeing a lot of these families and whatnot doing their last little trip before school starts up. And I mean, tonight the boat traffic was minimal. And we're going to start to see that continue on for the next couple weeks. So it's a good time to come down. These fish that are shallow are not beaten up. They haven't been caught. I don't think any of the fish, or at least we didn't catch any of our bigger fish way up underneath the docks yesterday. Eventually, though, you'll have to get way up underneath the docks to catch them. And we caught our fish on the edges of the docks yesterday. It was great. Caught most of most of my fish on, hopefully you guys can see this. It's getting dark out here. This is an E-Factor jig, I think it's a 3/4 ounce. It's pretty heavy. It's kind of like a blue craw, blue, black, and brown swirl trailer, and that good old T-craw from Tackle HD. I tell you what, this is a great combination. That T-craw, I don't know what it is. I throw a lot of other crawfish trailers, that a lot of them work. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a lot of them. This one, for whatever reason, you don't lose your pinchers like you do on a lot of other companies that have their little. You lose one claw all the time, and your jig still works, but it doesn't look the same. I don't have the same confidence with one claw on there. Whatever reason, this bait, the way they got this designed, that you don't have that problem nearly as much. I fished all day long with one E-Factor jig, and I mean, I got it hung up a couple times, but I never lost it. That's really impressive. And a lot of times, like when they first get on this pattern, you're gonna suck. You're gonna make some really bad casts. Okay, you're gonna blow up your bait casting reel several times that first day, and you just got to work through it. Because now that I spent a good portion of yesterday doing that, now I'll be fine the rest of the foreseeable future. you know, because it's a skill that you got to sharpen every so often, you know. And I haven't been doing it all summer. I've been out deep, and now they're starting to move shallow, and I'm happy for that. So the jig caught the most of my fish. A big worm is also working. This is the time of year that I'm going to peg my Texas rig. As you can see, I got a little peg right there. And this is that 12-inch hog monster in the June bug color. I've talked about it before here. A little tungsten weight. I think this is a 5/16 ounce weight. You know, not crazy heavy, but this is also catching some fish. You know, it seemed like the jig, I was just kind of feeling the jig a little bit better yesterday, so I was throwing it. But this caught some fish too when I asked it to. Your big worms are better for alongside the docks in a little bit. When you get a worm this size, it's a little hard to get underneath the docks, and that's where that jig was a little bit more helpful. But you know, this was still catching fish when I asked it to, and you know, they're not pressured right now, so they're kind of feeding a little bit better. So that's what I'm doing for my bigger fish. If I've got a tournament fisherman, if I got somebody that wants to be a tournament fisherman, that's the way to go. If I want to catch more numbers, I'm staying out deeper. I'm at home deep. That's where I kind of live most of the time out here. I know these deeper docks like the back of my hand a lot of times. I mean, I can tell you where they're supposed to set up. You know, this side, if the wind's coming from this direction or if they're pulling a current. You know, lately we haven't been seeing much current. You know, I know some areas of St. Louis have gotten a lot of rain, but we haven't had much. You know, Lake of the Ozarks has fallen a little bit here lately. Truman's come up a little bit, but they're still basically normal. So there's not going to be a whole lot for them to pull. Water temperature here is like upper 80s again, so it's like 86, 87. You know, at times 88, and you know, it's fine. It's August. I know one thing. I'm glad I'm not putting these bass in a live well for very long, because if you do have a tournament in the next few weeks, you got to bring a lot of ice, because you're going to kill a lot of bass. If you don't do it, your other people in the tournament are going to do it. Especially some of these tournaments that are going on for like 12 hours. I mean, they're just, you know, those bass are going to die, unfortunately. And you know, so you got to bring a lot of ice. You got to really keep in mind fish care, because all too often here at PB2, which is where I'm at right now, guys, you see them floating. You know, you don't see them floating like the same day. You see them floating 3 or 4 days later. They don't die immediately. A lot of times they die 3 or 4 days later. But getting back to fishing those deeper docks, okay. Still a lot of fish on them. The top water bite has been not very good lately. The swim bait bite has died off too. It's just not there for whatever reason. And I think once we start getting some cooler nights, that'll change. That'll really activate the shad again, and get them, you know, chasing more. Right now, the drop shot, the wacky worm. I've got this one on a spinning rod. This is the you know, a Tackle HD. You know, they're stick worm, basically, just a stick worm. The reason I like them is because they've got a ton of action. A lot of the Tackle HD plastics I like, they've got a ton of action. The plastic they use is super soft, and what that means is you're going to go through them quite a bit faster, but you're also going to get more bites, and that's really the most important thing. They float. Now this one I've got a little jig head on, so it's not going to float, but you know, it's just they make some really good plastic, and they give you quite a few baits per bag too, way more than everybody else does. And you know, this has been catching quite a few fish. I've got this one rigged on a spinning rod, which is great. I prefer to throw it on a bait casting rod. I've got one rigged on a little bit lighter weight here. You know, you probably can't see that very good, but you can see the hook I got. It's not the best view, but this is a little bit better. This one's got fluorocarbon on it, 12-pound fluorocarbon. Once again, the outsides, and I'm really paying attention to those cables too. Speaking of cables, I've got Mr. Drop Shot here. You guys have heard me talk about the Drop Shot in the past. This is a Tackle HD needle worm. It's an 8-inch worm. It's not a little tiny itsy bitsy 4-inch drop shot worm. I like the 8-inch, and it catches them. It's skinny, so you still call it a finesse worm, but it's great. I mean, today earlier we were reeling in one of our fish, and we were catching some off a bridge piling over here, and you know, the worm fell off the hook as we were reeling in the fish. It happens occasionally, and the worm's just sitting there on the surface of the lake, and you know, there's a couple little waves coming by, and the worm looks like it's alive. I mean, you guys got to see it. I wish I would have taken a video of it. Worm's just sitting there on the surface of the lake, and it looks like it's just wiggling all over the place, and it's just a great setup. Drop shot's been kind of off and on this year. It hasn't been that great. I think a lot of people kind of got into it the last couple of years, and it's kind of hurt it. You know, just like how fishing goes. I mean, it's like, you know, me with my big mouth talking too much, and you know, everybody else catches on. So lures tend to, you know, have trends. You know, this year it's the wacky worm is doing good. The last couple of years the wacky worm wasn't very good, and the 10-inch worm has been great this year. You know, last few years 10-inch worm was okay, but nothing great. But things definitely cycle, and they keep you on your toes, that's for sure. All right, guys, it's getting pretty dark here. I know you can still see me a little bit, but my schedule is pretty open. I've got the next week or so is busy, but overall I've got a lot more openings in August than I do in other times of the year. Especially if you want to go fish a particular part of the lake, I'm a lot more willing to do that this time, because we don't really have my summer crowd. The vacationers are starting to dwindle. The kids are going back to school, and I don't really have my fall crowd yet. So if you want to do something, please give me a call. My phone number is 573-434-2570. My website is fishinglake@theozarks.com. You can check me out on Facebook and do all kinds of stuff. I try to be pretty open. I did do a thing for Color 10 News this morning. Had Jesse Inman out with me, and now I just took him around a few of our spots that we normally catch fish at. You know, he's not a fisherman; he's a news anchor, and so having a guy that like him out in the boat was a treat. It was cool. Check us out on. He's gonna be playing it on Thursday morning. He's a morning news anchor, guys, so he's at work at like 5 a.m. I think his news goes on at like 5, 6, 7 a.m. and then it's done. So Color 10, if you're in the Rolla area, Lake of the Ozarks, Springfield, Tabor Rock, all of those areas, Color 10 is on, and you've probably seen him, you know, if you watch the news very much. He's a good guy, and he likes to fish a little bit. So I took him out, we videoed it, we had a cameraman on my boat this morning, and did a little bass fishing, and we also did a little catfishing, just playing around because he wanted to try it. And so that'll be on Thursday morning, like 6 a.m., Color 10. So guys, good luck out there, and tight lines.